The vast chamber of the United Earth Council fell silent as the holographic transmission from the Galactic Empire flickered to life. The Imperial Ambassador, tall and blue-skinned with multiple eyes, looked down at the assembled human representatives with barely concealed disdain. Admiral James Walker stood at the front of the Earth delegation, his weathered face showing no emotion as he studied the alien diplomat. After 40 years in the military, he had learned to read threats, and this was definitely one. Your species has 2 standard galactic days to submit to Imperial rule, the ambassador announced. Your technology is primitive, your military forces inadequate, and your resistance would be futile. The Empire spans 10,000 worlds. You are but one. Walker exchanged glances with General Maria Thompson, his longtime friend and colleague. They had prepared for this possibility ever since Earth's deep space sensors detected the Imperial fleet entering the solar system 1 week ago. Ambassador, Walker spoke clearly and calmly. We appreciate your offer, but Earth must respectfully decline. We suggest you review our historical records before making any hasty decisions. The ambassador's upper eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement in his species. You dare to refuse the Empire. Perhaps you don't understand your situation. Our smallest warship could level your largest city in minutes. We understand perfectly. General Thompson stepped forward. But it seems you don't understand us. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting itself. We've perfected the art of war against enemies with superior technology and numbers. We strongly advise you to reconsider. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the chamber in tense silence. Within hours, Earth's unified defense forces mobilized. Every nation activated their military reserves, and civilian defense protocols went into effect. They had trained for this scenario, but now it was reality. 3 days later, the first Imperial warships entered Earth's atmosphere. Their massive ships darkened the skies over major cities, a show of force meant to intimidate. Instead, it gave human defenders exactly what they needed: targets. The Empire's first mistake was assuming humans would follow conventional military doctrine. Instead of massing their forces for a traditional defense, Earth's militaries had dispersed into small mobile units. When the Imperial forces landed outside New York, they found an eerily empty city. They're retreating already, the Imperial commander told his troops as they advanced through the abandoned streets. This will be even easier than predicted. He didn't notice the thousands of civilian buildings that had been quietly converted into fortified positions. He didn't spot the subway tunnels now housing missile launchers and energy weapons, and he certainly didn't expect the attack to come from literally every direction at once. The first wave of Imperial troops walked right into one of humanity's oldest strategies: the ambush. Missiles launched from windows and rooftops. Snipers fired from concealed positions. Underground explosives detonated beneath Imperial vehicles. The carefully coordinated assault threw the invaders into chaos. Impossible, the Imperial commander shouted as reports of similar attacks came in from Chicago, London, Beijing, and dozens of other cities. They're supposed to be primitive. But humanity had learned from every war in its bloody history. They had learned from resistance fighters who held off larger forces. They had learned from guerrilla campaigns that frustrated superior armies. They had learned that sometimes the best defense was a devastating offense. As the first day of combat ended, the Empire had lost over 30% of its landing forces and gained 0 territory. Emergency signals flashed across their fleet as human forces demonstrated weapons and tactics the Empire had never encountered. Back in the Imperial command ship, the ambassador received the casualty reports with disbelief. How can they be fighting like this? Their technology is centuries behind ours. Admiral Walker's voice came through on all Imperial frequencies, a message broadcast to every enemy ship. We tried to warn you. We told you to check our history. Humanity has been fighting wars since we first picked up stones and sticks. We've never stopped improving, adapting, and overcoming. You thought we would be easy prey, but you've just started a war with the most dangerous species you've ever encountered. It's not too late to leave. This is your final warning. The Empire's response was to launch an orbital bombardment, destroying several small cities. They expected this show of force to break human resolve. Instead, it only confirmed what every human already knew. This would be a fight for survival. And when it came to survival, humanity had never lost. The Imperial Admiral paced on his command bridge, watching Earth's blue sphere through the view screen. His first wave of attacks had failed spectacularly, but now he would show these primitives the true might of the Empire. Launch the second wave, he commanded. Full planetary assault. Use the new battle droids. No more games. Thousands of pods streaked through Earth's atmosphere, each containing dozens of robotic warriors. The Empire had conquered 30 different species with these mechanical soldiers. They were relentless, precise, and utterly without fear. But humans had been preparing. In underground bunkers across the planet, military commanders watched the invasion through satellite feeds. They had studied the Empire's tactics from the first wave and adapted their strategies accordingly. They're using robots this time, General Thompson observed from the North American Command Center. Predictable patterns. No human creativity. We can use that. The battle droids landed in perfect formation, their metal feet striking the ground in unison. They began their advance using standard Imperial protocols, the same protocols that had worked on every other world they'd conquered. What they found instead was a planet that had turned itself into one massive trap. In the open plains of Kansas, Imperial droids marched forward only to have the ground beneath them suddenly give way. The fields had been hollowed out and raked with electromagnetic pulses, shorting out hundreds of units in seconds. Near Moscow, the robots encountered what appeared to be a retreating human force. They pursued according to their programming, only to be led into a massive industrial complex. The humans sealed the exits and flooded the entire facility with corrosive chemicals that ate through the droid's armor. "Sir," a human technician called out to Admiral Walker, "we've captured several intact droids. The tech teams are already working on hacking their control systems." This was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt and improvise. Within hours, human engineers had not only cracked the droids' basic programming, but had found ways to turn them against their masters. The Empire watched in horror as their own mechanical soldiers began turning on each other. Emergency shutdown commands were met with mocking laughter transmitted by human operators who had taken control. Impossible. The Imperial Admiral slammed his fist on his command console. They can't have defeated our technology this quickly. But humans had been creating and fighting machines for generations. From the first computer virus to the latest cybersecurity systems, humanity had vast experience in electronic warfare. The Empire's next mistake was attempting to use their orbital superiority. They began bombing major population centers, expecting to break human morale. Instead, they discovered that most cities had been evacuated, with critical industries moved underground or into hardened mountain facilities. What looked like prime targets from orbit were often elaborate decoys. Imperial ships would waste their ammunition on empty buildings while real human forces struck from unexpected directions. "They're learning our patterns too quickly," an Imperial tactician reported. "Every strategy we use, they counter within hours. It's like they've spent their entire history preparing for this exact type of war." He wasn't entirely wrong. Humanity had spent centuries creating stories about alien invasions, developing theoretical defenses, and imagining how to fight superior forces. What the Empire saw as primitive entertainment had actually been preparation. In orbit, Imperial ships suddenly found themselves targeted by missiles launched from civilian cargo vessels. The humans had converted their entire merchant fleet into improvised warships, each hiding weapons behind false cargo containers. "We can't tell their military ships from their civilian ones," an Imperial captain complained as his vessel took heavy damage. "They don't follow any of the standard combat protocols." By the end of the first week, the Empire had lost over 60% of their robotic forces and several capital ships. Their rigid military doctrine was crumbling in the face of human ingenuity and adaptability. Admiral Walker stood in the command center, watching the Empire's forces falling into one trap after another. "Send a message to all Earth forces," he ordered. "Operation Trojan Horse is ready. Phase 3 begins at dawn." The Empire had brought its most advanced technology to crush a supposedly primitive world. Instead, they were learning a harsh lesson about humanity. Technology alone doesn't win wars. Innovation, determination, and the will to survive count for far more. And humans had all three in abundance. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility unknown to the Empire, hundreds of Earth's best scientists and engineers worked around the clock. The cavernous laboratory was filled with captured Imperial technology, crashed ships, disabled battle droids, and damaged weapons. Dr. Robert Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the alien power core. After 3 days without sleep, he'd finally cracked its basic principles. "It's not magic," he announced to his team. "They're using quantum field manipulation, but their approach is limited, too structured." Across the lab, Dr. Anna Peters was elbow-deep in a damaged Imperial shield generator. "They've never had to innovate," she called back. "Their tech has been standardized for centuries. That's their weakness." The human researchers had discovered something fascinating about Imperial technology. It was advanced but stagnant. The Empire had stopped pushing boundaries long ago, content with their superiority over lesser species. "Look at this," Dr. Miller pointed to his screen. "Their power systems are perfectly efficient, but they can't handle unexpected surges. They never planned for anyone to attack the systems themselves. That was exactly what humanity did best, finding weaknesses and exploiting them." Within days, human scientists had not only understood Imperial technology, but had begun improving it in ways the Empire had never considered. In another section of the facility, military engineers were combining Imperial tech with human weapons. They discovered that while Imperial shields could stop any normal attack, they had no defense against certain frequencies of Earth-based electromagnetic pulses. "Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons and physical impacts," a weapons specialist explained. "They never thought anyone would try to disrupt the shield itself. We can slit right through their defenses." The first prototype of the new hybrid weapons was ready within 2 weeks. It looked crude by Imperial standards, a mixture of human and alien technology held together with what looked like duct tape and wire. But its effectiveness was undeniable. During the first test, the weapon completely bypassed Imperial shielding and disabled a captured battle droid with a single shot. The observers erupted in cheers, but Dr. Miller was already working on improvements. "Send this data to all resistance manufacturing centers," he ordered, "and get me more of those power cores. I have an idea for something bigger." The Empire's next assault came with their heaviest capital ships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. They expected to find a weakened enemy. Instead, they met humanity's new weapons. The first sign that something was wrong came when Imperial shields started failing across their fleet. Not from damage. They simply stopped working. Human ships, previously considered primitive, were now emitting energy patterns that the Empire's technology couldn't process. "What's happening?" the Imperial commander demanded as his ship's systems began shutting down. "How are they doing this?" The answer came in the form of thousands of small, improvised devices that humans had launched into space. Each one emitted a frequency that disrupted Imperial power systems. The humans called them feedback loops, using the Empire's own technology against them. But the real surprise came from Earth's surface. Massive cannons, built in secret using modified Imperial power cores, fired projectiles that phase-shifted through Imperial shields as if they weren't there. The Empire had never seen weapons like these because they had never imagined combining technologies in such ways. Their entire defense is based on perfect stability, Dr. Peters explained to military commanders. "So we created controlled chaos. Their systems can't adapt fast enough." The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it ended, the Empire had lost 30 capital ships, and humanity had proven they could not only match Imperial technology but improve upon it. Dr. Miller stood in the command center, watching the retreating Imperial ships. They thought technology was about having the most advanced toys, he said. They forgot it's really about understanding how things work and making them work better. The Empire had given humanity access to advanced technology, expecting it to make no difference. Instead, humans had done what they always did: learned, adapted, and turned their enemy's strength into a weakness. As the last Imperial ship fled the solar system, Earth's defenders were already preparing for the next phase. They had the Empire's technology now, and they were going to show the galaxy what humanity could do with it. "Send word to all research centers," Admiral Walker ordered. "Phase 4 begins now. It's time to take the fight to them." The bridge of the Earth's first star carrier, humanity's hope, hummed with activity. Admiral Walker stood at the command center, watching as hundreds of ships gathered around Earth. Each vessel represented a combination of human ingenuity and reversed-engineered Imperial technology. "All fleet commanders report ready," General Thompson announced. "The Empire still doesn't know we've cracked their faster-than-light travel systems." The human fleet was smaller than the Empire's, but every ship carried weapons and systems the Empire had never seen. More importantly, they carried crews who had spent their entire lives learning to overcome superior forces. "Send the signal," Walker ordered. "Operation Surprise begins now." The fleet vanished into hyperspace, using travel corridors the Empire believed impossible to navigate. Their first target, an Imperial supply base that supported operations in 3 star systems. The Imperial base commander was enjoying his meal when the alarm sounded. "Impossible," he muttered, checking the readings. "They can't be here. They're primitives." But there they were, human ships dropping out of hyperspace in attack formation. Before the Imperial forces could react, the humans deployed their newest weapon. They called it the Blackout Bomb, a device that turned the Empire's own power distribution system into an electromagnetic pulse generator. Every Imperial system on the base went dark. Backup systems tried to activate, only to fail as they encountered programming that human hackers had secretly inserted weeks ago. "Hit them with everything," Walker commanded. "Show them what Earth can do." The battle wasn't even close. Human forces, combining Imperial tech with Earth's warfare experience, overwhelmed the base's defenses in under an hour. As Imperial survivors fled, they carried stories that would spread fear throughout the Empire. The humans didn't fight like any species they'd encountered. They didn't follow standard tactics. They modified their strategies mid-battle, used their ships in unpredictable ways, and seemed to thrive in chaos. "Another victory stir," a lieutenant reported to Walker. 7 Imperial bases hit in the last 12 hours. No major casualties on our side. But humanity wasn't just fighting with weapons. They had learned the Empire's communication protocols and began broadcasting messages to occupied worlds. They shared stories of their resistance, their victories, and most importantly, proof that the Empire could be defeated. "Let me get this straight," an Imperial Council member demanded during an emergency session. "These humans aren't just attacking our bases, they're inspiring revolts." The reports were clear. 3 systems had already declared independence after seeing human successes. The Empire's aura of invincibility was cracking. On the humanity's hope, Walker received news that made him smile. Their psychological warfare was working even better than expected. Imperial crews were becoming hesitant to engage human ships, never knowing what new tactics or weapons they might face. "They expected us to be predictable," Thompson said, watching tactical displays showing human forces advancing through Imperial space. "They never considered that our greatest weapon is our ability to think differently." The Empire tried to respond with overwhelming force, gathering their largest fleet for a decisive battle. But the humans refused to fight on Imperial terms. Instead, they struck at supply lines, disrupted communications, and disappeared before the Imperial fleet could respond. "Sir," a communications officer called out, "we're picking up transmissions from 15 more systems. They're asking for our help in breaking from the Empire." Walker nodded. This was what they had hoped for. The Empire's rigid structure was its greatest weakness, and now that weakness was being exposed. "Send them our standard response," he ordered. "Earth stands with all people fighting for freedom." As the human fleet continued its advance, the Empire faced a terrifying reality. They hadn't just failed to conquer Earth, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a species that combined creativity with determination, that learned from every battle, and that seemed to grow stronger with each challenge. "The next phase begins tomorrow," Walker announced to his crew. "The Empire thought they could break humanity. Instead, we're going to break their empire, piece by piece." Across Imperial space, the message was spreading. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning, and they were teaching others to do the same. The Imperial High Council chamber erupted in chaos. Grand Admiral Thorn, the Empire's most decorated military leader, slammed his fist on the polished black table. "We must negotiate with these humans," he shouted. "Every day we fight them, we lose more ships, more worlds, more respect." Across the table, Supreme Commander Voss, leader of the Empire's hardline faction, stood up. His face showed the barely contained rage that had been building since the war began. "Negotiate with primitives." Voss spat the words. "The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. We do not bow to lesser species." But the numbers didn't lie. On the massive display behind them, red lights showed systems in revolt, inspired by Earth's resistance. Yellow lights marked worlds where Imperial control was weakening. The Empire was facing its first real crisis in centuries. "Look at these reports." Admiral Thorn pushed data tablets across the table. "The humans aren't just beating us. They're teaching others our weaknesses. Yesterday, the Centauri system used human tactics to drive out our forces." The council members shifted uncomfortably. The Empire had always maintained control through a combination of superior technology and the fear it inspired. Now both advantages were slipping away. "These humans," a junior council member spoke up, "they fight differently. My fleet encountered them last week. We followed all standard protocols, but they turned our own strategies against us." That was the problem. The Empire had standardized everything. Tactics, responses, procedures. It had made them efficient but predictable. The humans were anything but predictable. In a secure communications center, Imperial intelligence officers monitored transmissions from across the galaxy. The humans had somehow tapped into the Empire's supposedly unbreakable networks and were broadcasting messages of resistance. "Another system has declared independence," an officer reported. "They're using modified human weapons. Our shields are useless against them." The Empire's military split into two camps. The traditionalists, led by Voss, demanded ever larger fleets and more aggressive tactics. The reformers, following Thorn, argued for fundamental changes in how the Empire operated. "We must adapt," Thorn argued to his supporters. "The humans have shown us that our way of fighting is outdated. We need to learn from them." "Traitor," Voss accused during another council session. "You would have us abandon 10 millennia of tradition because of one species." But even as they argued, more systems fell. The humans weren't just winning battles, they were winning hearts and minds. Every victory proved the Empire wasn't invincible. Every successful rebellion inspired 3 more. In secret meetings, some Imperial commanders began studying human tactics. They saw how Earth forces used chaos and unpredictability as weapons. Some even started implementing these strategies, despite orders to maintain traditional methods. "Sir," an aide rushed into Thorn's chamber, "we're detecting unauthorized communications between our fleet commanders and Earth forces." Thorn wasn't surprised. The humans had offered mercy to any Imperial forces that stood down. Many were beginning to see it as a better option than fighting an enemy they couldn't seem to beat. The final blow to Imperial unity came when 3-sector fleets refused direct orders to attack Earth positions. Their commanders declared they would no longer fight for a failing strategy. "The Empire is eating itself," observed Admiral Walker, watching the reports from Earth's intelligence network. "They've never faced an enemy they couldn't simply overpower. They don't know how to handle failure." In the High Council chamber, the argument reached its peak. Voss ordered the arrest of Thorn and his supporters for defeatist behavior. Thorn's allies in the fleet responded by turning their weapons on Voss's forces. For the first time in its history, the Empire faced civil war. Humanity hadn't just resisted. They had shattered the Empire's foundation of unquestioned authority and rigid obedience. "Send word to all commands," Voss ordered his loyal forces. "Any commander showing sympathy to the humans or the traitors will be executed." But his words rang hollow. The Empire's grip was failing, and everyone knew it. The only question was how much more damage would be done before they admitted defeat. The massive holographic display in Earth's command center showed the Empire's territory shrinking by the day. Admiral Walker and General Thompson studied the map, marking key targets for their next offensive. "Their supply lines are stretched thin." Thompson pointed to a series of red lines connecting Imperial strongholds. "And we've identified their primary communication hubs." Walker nodded, his experienced eyes finding the patterns in the Empire's defensive positions. "They're still trying to protect everything at once. Still thinking like an empire instead of an army at war." Earth's forces had evolved dramatically since the war began. Their ships now combined the best of human and Imperial technology, but with innovations the Empire had never considered. Each vessel was a unique combination of weapons and systems, making them unpredictable in battle. "Launch Operation Shattered Crown," Walker commanded. The order went out to Earth's fleets, now spread across 100 star systems. The attack began at precisely the same moment in 30 different locations. Human forces struck at the Empire's supply lines, communication centers, and command nodes. But unlike previous military campaigns, each attack was different. Some bases faced electronic warfare that turned their own systems against them. Others encountered weapons they'd never seen before. Still others found their command code suddenly useless, thanks to human hackers who had infiltrated their networks. "Sir," a young lieutenant reported, "Imperial forces are responding exactly as predicted. They're pulling ships from their border regions to defend their core worlds." This was what Earth had waited for. As the Empire concentrated its forces, they left dozens of systems vulnerable. Systems that had been waiting for exactly this opportunity to break free. "Send the signal to all resistance groups," Thompson ordered. "The door is open." Across Imperial space, carefully planned rebellions erupted simultaneously. Worlds that had learned from Earth's example rose up against their weakened garrisons. The Empire's rigid military structure, designed to control through overwhelming force, couldn't handle fighting on so many fronts at once. "They're trying to adapt," Walker observed, watching Imperial ships attempting to use human-style tactics. "But they don't understand that our strength isn't in the tactics themselves. It's in our ability to change them." The Empire's commanders, trained to follow strict protocols, found themselves facing enemies who rewrote their strategies mid-battle. Every time they thought they had countered a human tactic, Earth's forces would switch to something new. "Another command center has gone dark," reported the tactical officer. "That's 15 major communication hubs disabled in the last hour." Without their central command structure, Imperial forces began falling into confusion. Some ships refused to leave their assigned positions. Others charged into battle without support. The mighty Imperial war machine was coming apart. In desperation, the Empire attempted to regroup their forces for one massive counterattack. They gathered their remaining loyal fleets, planning to crush Earth's forces with pure military might. Walker watched the Imperial ships assembling. "They still think this is about who has the bigger fleet," he said, shaking his head. "They never understood this was about who could adapt faster, think better, fight smarter." The final battle lasted less than a day. Human forces didn't meet the Imperial fleet head-on. Instead, they struck from multiple directions, using tactics that changed with every engagement. Imperial commanders, unable to coordinate their responses, found their formation breaking apart. Their flagship is attempting to surrender, Thompson announced, reading the incoming transmission. They're requesting terms. But even as the main Imperial fleet fell, Earth's victory was being sealed across hundreds of worlds. The rebellions they had inspired and supported were succeeding. The Empire's 1,000-year reign was ending not with a single decisive battle, but with countless small victories. "Send word to all human forces," Walker ordered. "The Empire's military backbone is broken. Now we secure the peace." As the Empire's remaining ships stood down, the galaxy watched in amazement. Humanity hadn't just defeated a superior force. They had completely transformed the nature of galactic warfare. They had proven that determination, innovation, and adaptability could overcome any technological advantage. The Empire forgot one crucial thing, Walker told his staff as they celebrated. "It's not the size of the force that matters. It's the spirit of those who wield it." The final push had succeeded, but humanity's influence on the galaxy was just beginning. 1 year after the Empire's surrender, the Grand Hall of Earth hosted representatives from over 500 worlds. The massive chamber, built with a blend of human and imperial architecture, symbolized the new era dawning across the galaxy. Admiral Walker, now significantly grayer but standing just as tall, addressed the assembled delegates. The Empire's former territories had fragmented into independent systems, and many had sought Earth's guidance in building their new governments. "We didn't fight this war to become a new empire," Walker declared to the gathered representatives. "We fought for the right of all species to determine their own destiny." In the years since the war, humanity had emerged as something unique in galactic history, a power that didn't seek to dominate. Instead, Earth became a center of innovation and learning, where species from across the galaxy came to share knowledge and ideas. General Thompson, reviewing reports from former Imperial worlds, smiled at the changes. Where the Empire had enforced uniformity, Earth encouraged diversity. Where Imperial technology had stagnated, human engineers were pushing boundaries daily. "Another trade delegation has arrived," an aide informed Walker. "This time from the Outer Rim systems. They're interested in our educational exchange program." The war had taught the galaxy an important lesson. True strength came from adaptation and innovation, not just technological superiority. Earth's universities now hosted students from hundreds of worlds, all eager to learn the human approach to problem-solving. In the former Imperial capital, now transformed into a galactic cultural center, the old council chamber served a new purpose. Instead of imperial decrees, it hosted debates and discussions. Former enemies sat together, learning from each other. "The humans showed us a better way," a former Imperial commander told his students. "They proved that rigid thinking leads to defeat, while adaptability leads to growth." Earth's influence spread not through force, but through example. The hybrid technology developed during the war had revolutionized space travel, communications, and everyday life. But more importantly, humanity's approach to challenges had changed how other species thought about progress. "Another system has adopted the Earth Constitution as a template," Thompson reported during a council meeting. "They're particularly interested in our emphasis on individual rights and creative freedom." The former Empire's military forces had been transformed. Many worlds maintained their own defense fleets, but they were different now, more flexible, more innovative. Regular joint exercises with Earth's forces ensured that lessons learned during the war weren't forgotten. The galaxy needed this change, Walker observed, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving through Earth's space lanes. The Empire's stagnation was holding everyone back. In research centers across Earth, scientists worked alongside aliens who had once been enemies. Together, they pushed the boundaries of what was possible, combining different perspectives to solve problems the Empire had considered unsolvable. We've achieved more in the past year than the Empire did in a century, a former Imperial scientist admitted. Freedom to question, to experiment, to fail, and try again. These were the real technologies we needed. But perhaps the most significant change was in how species viewed each other. The Empire had enforced a strict hierarchy, with some species considered naturally superior to others. Earth's victory had shattered that myth, proving that potential existed everywhere. Another diplomatic request: an aide handed Walker a datapad. 3 more systems wanting to join the Galactic Exchange Program. The program had been Earth's alternative to empire building. Instead of conquering or controlling, Earth offered partnership and mutual growth. Worlds that joined gained access to human knowledge and technology, while contributing their own unique perspectives and abilities. As Walker stood at the window of his office, watching the sunset over a changed Earth, he reflected on how far they'd come. The planet was now a buzzing hub of interstellar activity, with ships and beings from across the galaxy coming to trade, learn, and grow. "We didn't just win a war," he told Thompson as they shared their evening meal. "We showed the galaxy a new way forward." The Empire had wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, humanity had transformed the galaxy, not through force, but through something far more powerful: the ability to adapt, innovate, and inspire others to do the same. As night fell on Earth, lights from countless ships twinkled in the sky, each one a testament to humanity's greatest victory, turning enemies into friends and an empire of force into a galaxy of cooperation.